Lucy Allan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and a very warm congratulations to the Deputy Leader for his well-deserved appointment to the front bench. After a rollercoaster few weeks in UK political history, it really is a wonderful opportunity to be able to come here together to talk about the needs and concerns of our constituents. And it's been a great pleasure to have a canter around the United Kingdom as we visited very many constituencies this afternoon. I represent an expanding new town built on the historic East Shropshire coalfield, and it's the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, and throughout its proud history it has embraced change and made the most of every single opportunity that has come its way. And it is a fantastic place to live and work, and it continues to attract new investment, and it is fair to say that it is playing its part with relish in the fourth Industrial Revolution. Now, with a unique urban-rural mix, Telford has an identity all of its own. It has a spirit of determination and aspiration, and it always makes the best of the cards that it is dealt. Telford naturally faces a number of challenges that are often seen in any rapidly growing new town, from a lack of basic infrastructure to pressure on doctors' waiting lists, school places, broadband, you name it. Now, back in early 2013, when I first set out my stall to be Telford's next MP, I pledged to fight to bring down youth unemployment, which was blighting the future of Telford's young people. And so I was delighted as anybody here by yesterday's job figures that do show, according to the House of Commons Library, that Telford's youth unemployment claimant rate continues to fall to record lows. I also pledged to fight to get Telford better connected both by rail and with adequate mobile and broadband connections, which was essential to ensure that business investment and those buying new homes could go about their business in the way that they would expect. Another pledge was to fight for a new critical care centre to be located at the Princess Royal Hospital. A further one was to protect green spaces, and one that was particularly dear to my heart was the challenge of keeping Telford moving. We have a plethora of traffic lights at roundabouts that have sprung up out of the blue overnight when no one could see any need for them at all, causing frustrations and delays. And in the last few years, there has indeed been progress in almost all of these areas, and I'm very proud to keep on chipping away at these local issues that really impact on people's lives. And as my honourable friend, the member for Gloucester, so eloquently said, this is what we are here to do. Now, one area which I can safely say is the most important of all to my constituents is the future of healthcare in Shropshire and what is to become of the A&E at Princess Royal. Now, I have long championed a new critical care unit to join the existing women and children's unit, and it is, regrettably, this one issue in these last 3 years where there has been no progress at all. And as time has ticked by, there has been one missed deadline after another and no explanation whatsoever for it. A final decision was due to be taken in November 2015, and that was deferred again to June 2016, and now I learn this week, July 2016, that it's to be deferred again to some unspecified date in the future. Back in November 2015, NHS England was brought in to keep the project on target, but to no avail whatsoever. The whole process seems to have become paralysed. The clinical commissioning groups and clinicians involved seem completely unable to make a decision. By failing to act, they are in effect choosing to do nothing whatsoever about the future of healthcare in Shropshire. And that is no answer whatsoever to my constituents who have told me time and time again this is the most important issue to them. Now, while residents worry that they might lose their A&E provision, services deteriorate and there is a negative impact on the morale of healthcare workers in the hospitals affected, not to mention the £3 million worth of cost that the Future Fit programme has absorbed in simply not coming to a decision. In Telford, as I've said, we have a very rapidly growing population, and we also have extreme health inequalities. People come to Telford all the time, and it's absolutely right that when they save up and buy their new dream home, that they should expect fundamental services to be available to them. And of course, there's been great progress on broadband and progress on train services and the fantastic news on jobs. But we also need a healthcare provision that is fit for our thriving new town. And I want to use this debate to highlight my constituents' concerns and frustrations that they write to me about on a daily basis. We need a clear timetable for the completion of the Future Fit programme, and we need an absolute determination to stick to it. Now, if NHS England cannot make that happen, then surely the next stop must be the Secretary of State. Now, I'm looking forward to my summer in Telford and that great opportunity to spend time with my constituents that I am so proud and fortunate to represent. And it's with huge thanks to the Backbench Business Committee that all of us have been able to come here today to gather on both sides of the House to debate something that is to debate the focus and put attention on our constituents, because this is what we all do every day of the week, and maybe we don't talk about it quite as much as we ought. And it is a fantastic and very welcome opportunity to highlight that. Madam Deputy Speaker, I wish you a wonderful holiday, and everybody else that is here, I hope you can have some rest from what has been a fanatically busy period in all our lives. Thank you.
Hello there, it's Steve here from Telford Alternate Guide, and we're carrying on with our series on the people of Telford, and in the hot seat today is...
I'm Lucy Allen, I'm the MP for Telford, and I'm also a New Towns champion because I am the chairman of an all-party group in Parliament on New Towns.
Wow, so there's lots to talk about today. Now I've got a little list here and we're just going to sort of try and get through the list. But first of all, what I want to know is your journey to become MP for Telford. How did that happen?
How did that happen?
It
is a really interesting story, actually, probably rather a long one. But I think anybody who wants to be an MP has to, at some point in their life, have said, right, I want to make a difference to the world, I want to make my mark, I'm going to be determined and ambitious. And I think, inevitably, all MPs will have an element of that in them. And I certainly set out a long time ago saying that I thought I wanted to be an MP.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have to have that self-belief that you can make that happen, because it's not an easy path. It's particularly not easy if you are coming to an area that is always, for example, in this case, has always been a Labour area, and to embark on that and take that on. A lot of people said to me at the time they thought I was a bit crazy to why make life difficult, you know, why go and do something like that. And yeah, in hindsight, you might say that they were right to question the rationality of making that decision. But it's all about you deciding that you want to do something and having that self-belief and determination to make it happen.
Yeah. For instance, I mean, Emma's just on camera there. Your son wanted to be an MP, didn't he? You know, and it's such a hard-working process to get there.
Yeah, it does. It takes a long time. I mean, I started out like quite a lot of people do as a local councillor, because I was living in London. It was my local community I wanted to get involved in, and I saw it very much as something that I wanted to give to the community. I'd had a successful career. I'd worked in finance, and I was sort of taking a back step from that and saying, no, I want to do something a bit different in my life, and I want to be integrated within my community. And so that's where I started, and a lot of people started.
So where were you originally a councillor? I
started out being a councillor in London, where I had been working for many years in the financial services sector. I was a chartered accountant by training, and I'd had a successful career, but then I started a family, and I thought, actually I want a bit more than just commuting it wasn't 9 to 5, it was like kind of 7 till 7. It's quite
my kind of hours.
So I'd kind of backed off from some of that and said, no, I want to do a sort of portfolio of different things. And I became a trustee of a local NHS trust. I was a school governor. I was doing sort of different things within the community. And I thought, yeah, actually, you know what, why don't I become a councillor as well? Because some of the things that I'm annoyed about in my community, I can actually give a voice to. I can make a difference. And that was really motivating.
That's such an important point, because some people have a lot to say, but actually, sometimes you can, you know, if you've got a lot to say, you can make a difference yourself by, you know, anybody could become a councillor. It's just the work you put into it and make that difference, you know. So obviously you've now become a councillor. So was Telford even on your radar then? What did you know about Telford back then?
I didn't know much about Telford at all back then. I started off...
Because London is a life, isn't it?
It is.
You know.
I mean, I started off in Worcestershire, so not so far away from Telford. My dad was a farmer in Worcestershire. And so I sort of knew where Telford was.
So you come from a quite rural background then,
yeah, definitely. but I don't have a pair of Wellington boots now.
No.
Because, I mean, having lived in London for a long time as well, I didn't really see myself as a rural person once I sort of became an adult. But so I can't remember what we were talking about. We were talking about Wellington boots.
Yeah, we were on about Wellington boots, your favourite pair.
I haven't got any
Are they hunters? Do you like hunters?
No, I haven't got any.
Other Wellington boots are available.
So
yeah, we're on about, obviously you
oh
were...
yes, so yeah, then being a councillor in London, and then obviously anybody who's sort of quite sort of ambitious wants to think, well, what am I going to do next? You know, where do I go from here?
What's the next step?
And then, in fact, it was Theresa May who was trying to encourage more women to get involved in politics, and she went around all the councillors in the country saying, lady councillors, do you want to think about taking this a bit further? And if you do, come into Parliament and have a dinner with me. So I did that, and I thought, oh, well, why not? You know, someone's got to do it. Why not? So, yeah, so I said, yeah, OK, I'd like to do this, and went through the whole sort of selection process of getting yourself vetted and put on a list of candidates, and you get to that stage. It doesn't guarantee anything, it just means that you are a suitable person to be a candidate. So there was that sort of process, and that was about 10 years before I actually became an MP. So it takes, you know, it takes a long time. And then you get an opportunity to apply for seats. Yeah. And of course, a seat only becomes vacant if somebody dies, or if you're trying to win it off another party. Yeah. So you don't just, you know, they don't just get given to you. You have to actually go out and win them.
So you've had thought that potentially there's these seats appearing all over the country, that potentially you could become an MP of one of those areas, of these areas that you probably really have never even, you know, you don't know much about or anything. That's quite scary.
Do you know, it's an interesting point you make, because I didn't apply for just any seat.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. I wanted to apply for a seat where I felt I would be at home and that I would have a connection with the people that live there. So, for example, there was a seat down the road in Richmond in London. Yeah. It's a very sort of liberal, sort of green, kind of affluent area. And I thought,
you could go home for tea as well.
So I was sort of wandering around Waitrose there, thinking, oh, is this my kind of place? And I'm thinking, no, actually, I don't feel a connection. And also, I didn't think that people needed a strong voice to speak for them, because they're actually quite vocal themselves. And I didn't think that I could actually make a huge difference to people's lives. But someone like Telford, I really felt...
We haven't even got a Waitrose.
No, absolutely. No. I felt Telford was an extraordinary place. It absolutely comes across in some of the videos that you make, that it's a place where people come to kind of build a future, who, for sort of trying to make something of themselves. It's very aspirational. It's full of people who work really hard to achieve something, that care about their families, care about the next generation, care about working hard and getting on. And so it was that whole kind of Telford spirit, that whole sort of Telford ethos that really...
There's an optimism about it, isn't there? Yeah, an optimism.
Yeah, and then also I thought, people don't get listened to enough in Telford. So there's an element of people get on with their lives, but they don't get heard very often. They get kind of smacked down, and we've seen a bit of that over the whole sort of referendum thing, where I'm quite starting to be a bit more vocal about the way in which the voice of the people's not being listened to. But I think there was an element of that in Telford, where people just kind of, well, you know, everyone's getting on with their lives and that's fine, they're not making a fuss. But actually they need to be listened to, they need to be heard, and we've seen that also with the CSE issues, where people are just not being heard. And I thought, well,
that's very interesting. You should be saying that now, because I did read something online. Somebody did post something, and they were saying about people's voices being heard, and that most people just carry on, and all they're worried about is, they're not worried about politics. They're worried about the next, you know, that they'll be able to feed and clothe their children. You know, they're the important core values. Yeah, actually, people do need to be listened to, because they're the people that make up this town. So your first trip to Telford, when you first trip to Telford, coming up that motorway, coming into Telford, what were your first impressions?
Coming along the M54, seeing Lariki, as you come round the corner, thinking, oh wow, I was quite excited actually. I was really excited, and this was before I'd been selected to be the candidate, and all that took 2 years, and it was a very long process. But that first trip, I remember I came off the M54 at Junction 6, and I was going towards Lightmoor, and I saw that white church there, and some of the houses that are built now weren't there. and it sort of looked like it had come down from the moon. I
Yeah.
thought, my goodness, you know, what is this? This kind of ready-made town, not town, but sort of ready-made housing estate had just like landed from the moon. It literally felt like that. It felt really
Yeah.
quite strange. But yeah, then I did get lost a lot. I do remember that, trying
Yeah.
to find my way around, and the roundabouts really confused me to start with. And yeah, as soon as I got selected, I moved straight to Dawley Bank, and that made that my home in Telford.
Yeah.
And suddenly, very quickly, felt quite ease. People were very welcoming. There was
Yeah.
none of this kind of, oh, where are you from? Because everybody in Telford comes from somewhere.
Exactly, and you've got a diversity in where in everybody. I mean, you've got the locals who have been here from day one, but obviously you've got that mix of people from all over, not just Birmingham, which is the misconception. People from all
Everywhere.
over. People come to Telford, don't they?
And I love that about it as well. So people had come here for a
Yeah.
reason, and their reason was to build a better life.
Yeah.
And I love that sense of hope and optimism.
And that build a better life was the ethos of Telford Development Corporation. Actually, in the promotion number 2, should we say that? You know, of building that better life. You can better yourself. You can build yourself into something. You know, with Telford, the opportunities are there. So, what was it like the day you realised that you were going to be the MP for Telford? What was it like? Just that day, that moment.
Well, I suppose it might sound a little bit kind of not arrogant, but I don't know. I don't care what it sounds like. But I really believe that the minute I set foot in Telford, I knew that I was going to be the MP, and I hadn't even been selected as the candidate.
Yeah.
I just knew that it was the right thing for me, and the right thing for Telford. I just thought, this is brilliant. This is meant to be. It's a kind of a match. You're kind of looking for a fit, and as I said earlier, I didn't want to represent an area where I wasn't going to make a difference. I was just going to be, you know, wandering around, cutting a few ribbons, and not really being a champion, not really being a voice, because actually the people living there might not really need an MP that was going to do things for them. So for me, it needed to be somewhere where a good MP was going to actually make a difference. So that was a real criteria. And yeah, I felt, as I say, it was a really brilliant fit, because, not to introduce an element of politics into this, but Telford is conservative with a small c.
Yeah.
Whatever people vote, and actually people don't really care about party politics as the people I come across are not that interested in what party you are, or what, you know, none of that. But definitely conservative with a small c in terms of wanting to, all the things we've talked about, this sort of aspiration, this ambition, this home ownership ideal, bettering themselves, you know, wanting to work hard and save up and get a new car, and all of that, you know, that is quite what I would call conservative with a small c. And people are very much like that. And I just felt there was this gel, this sort of fit between sort of me and my kind of beliefs and goals and aspirations and people in Telford, and I just felt that straight away. And so yeah, when I then became I was fortunate enough to be selected as the candidate, it was like, well, this was meant to be. This was meant to be. This is my mission in life. This is my vision that's come true. You know, this is.
I do believe in things are meant to be, and things just fit together like a big jigsaw puzzle, and you know, and that's how kind of my life's panned out a little bit, really. So straight away, I'll see you become MP then.
Well, it wasn't that easy. That's the thing. So then there's a whole 2 years of when people are saying, "Well, you're never going to be the MP here. You must be joking. It's always been Labour. You know, we've never had a woman MP. You know, the last woman MP in Shropshire was in 1925 or something. You know, a long time ago.
Wow.
Yeah, you're never going to do it." And all the way through that whole 2 years, I was absolutely complete certainty that I was going to be the MP, and there was no doubt in my mind at any stage. It sounds a bit strange, perhaps, but I think you need that, because it's really, really tough.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen. You know, every single person that you touch gives you the opportunity to become the MP, but you have to go and do it vote by vote, person by person.
Exactly.
It doesn't just happen. You don't just pitch up and go, "Oh yeah, I'll vote for you."
Yeah, exactly. And people put you in that position, you know, and because they believed in you and what you could do.
I think they got to know me, and I think that is really important. And that's the great thing about Telford, that people, it's quite a close-knit community. Everybody knows each other, and people talk to each other. And so if you go out and meet somebody's granddad and you have a good chat, and then the granddad will say to his grandchildren, oh, I met that Lucy Allan, she's all right really, she's not too bad for a Tory.
Yeah.
And so there was an element of people gradually over a 2-year process getting to know me. It was almost like a 2-year job interview.
Yeah.
And it was every single day. And I think what made it possible was the self-belief, but also the people I met just being so friendly, so welcoming, and I just felt really at home.
Yeah, because you can't win everybody. It's like that, and it's like hot groups, isn't it, and things like that. Some people like them, some people like them, some people, you know, and it's just people are just different. They've just different ideas about things, you know. That's what makes us all unique.
And there were a lot of people, and they've straight up with me and said, look, you're a nice girl, like you, no problem, but no way I'm ever going to vote Tory because that Margaret Thatcher, and look what she did to the mines and all of that. So you understand that and you recognise that. And ultimately, when you do become the MP, you represent everybody, and that's the great thing about being an MP. You are a voice for the entire community, whatever their background, whatever their politics, and most people, as I said earlier, actually have no particular politics.
Yeah.
And you represent them all. And so you sort of stop that. The whole party politics thing ends the day you become the MP. So obviously, while you're the candidate, you're walking around with a blue rosette on and all of that, and there's a bit of argy-bargy with the guys walking around with the red rosettes. But that stops. That stops the day you become the MP, because you represent everybody. And that has been a bit of a challenge, trying to get that across to other politicians on the other side, as it were, within Telford. But as far as I'm concerned, as far as the people I represent are concerned, you are totally apolitical as the Member of Parliament, and you actually are there to represent people, be the voice of the area, be the champion of the town, and that's what I've set out to be. I
can remember in your very early years, obviously, you were very prolific on social media. You were doing loads of little videos and that's actually what I liked about you. Is we'd never seen that from anybody before, where they were putting themselves out there and going, "Hi, it's Lucy. We're here such and such today." You know, and there was these little videos. You never knew
I really enjoyed
what was going to come up or where it was going to be.
Oh, here am I in trench. I'm having a cup of tea because it's really cold, and it was all kind of. It was very immediate and instant and honest and open, and I enjoyed doing. I really did enjoy doing.
And that's it. And that's and that's what I remember about you particularly. That personable approach that you took. So once you're here now, and immediately, what things did you start to tackle, and things that you felt you could change within Telford?
Well, I had a 6-point plan, which was, and I think it's really important that everybody has a vision or a plan about what they're trying to achieve, whatever job they're in or whatever role they play. They should have their 6-point plan. So I had my 6-point plan, which was very much designed to sort of tackle some of the challenges that Telford faced. And the top of the list at the outset was tackling youth unemployment, because throughout our history we've had real unemployment black spot. Right through every recession, we've been hit harder than other parts of the West Midlands, harder than the national average. So that was a big issue, and also because business had said to me that their biggest challenge was the skills gap, trying to recruit people who could do the jobs that they had. So we had skilled jobs coming in, but then they were going to have to get people from elsewhere to come and do the jobs, which seemed to me was completely unnecessary, given that we had good schools producing good young people, and they just needed to be able to match the skills. So that was a sort of number one issue at the time, and we're talking back in very early 2013, so some time ago now, and it was very high at that point.
But actually, looking at Telford now, it's vastly improved. I mean,
so much has gone.
We've got much more business coming in now, which creating these jobs.
Well, we've got a lot going for us. I mean, I think it's to do with where we are positioned in terms of access to Birmingham. Obviously, the M54 is hugely important to us, and that was resisted by people locally when it first came in. That has enabled us to be accessible. We need to keep working on that, because if something goes wrong with the M54, the trains aren't as good as they need to be. But the other things we've got going for us is quite clearly we've got a fantastic rural urban mix of an environment here, and it's a great place to live. So getting employees to move here is easy to do. We've got value for money housing, and we've got huge sort of spaces for business to come in, and I think we do have a business supporting council as well, and that's important, and we've got to keep that going. So yes, we've had a lot of inward investment, and that's been fantastic for us.
so yes, that youth unemployment's come down, and has unemployment generally, which is just, it is fantastic.
Because
so
there's opportunities, isn't there, for people, you know, for you leave school. I mean, in my day, when I left school, you could walk into a job in a factory without an interview in them days. And obviously it's progressively got harder and harder and harder, as a lot of businesses have moved abroad, and now there's almost like a revitalisation of business. And obviously, as you say, the council have been very supportive and instrumental in bringing businesses in, like they should be. And I think the future's never looked brighter in that department, but it could be better. There's still lots of land available for business. You know,
more opportunities for Telford. There's no doubt about it, and we've got to keep that going. So it's certainly nothing to be complacent about. But certainly, as we celebrate our 50th, one thing we should be celebrating is that we've got better employment opportunities than ever before. Because without that, then how do you have this whole Telford dream, you know, the ambition to own your own home and to build a future?
Because that was the utopian dream initially, wasn't it?
Job
that
is
you
the
could,
number one.
Yeah, a home, a job, a home.
And a car.
And a car, yeah. Okay, now.
Oh yes, I'd only got as far as my number one.
We've got a number 2 now.
So then obviously the really important one is this whole connectivity.
We're recording again?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, off we go.
Yeah. So the whole connectivity issue. So at the outset in 2013, it was the digital one was the real problem. Yeah. So our broadband was poor, and our council had actually just turned down a matched funding opportunity where the government was going to invest in broadband as long as the council matched it. So they'd turned that down. So I was like, no, we can't have that. You've got to embrace digital connectivity because that's our future. And fortunately, that then subsequently did happen, and we are now much better connected than we were digitally. So that's been another important issue that Telford's worked on hard and made progress on. Then alongside that was the issue around the trains, which we still haven't cracked that one, to be honest. It's not.
So what's the current situation with the trains? Because obviously Emma came in on the Virgin train, and obviously to get a Virgin train to come into Telford is a task in itself, and I think that's absolutely thumbs up for that. That's much needed.
Well, there's a sort of it's not just the pure fact of having a direct train to London or whatever. It is the sort of symbolism of it. When you're standing on a platform at Euston and you look up there and it says Telford, you know that you are actually connected to the rest of the world. Yeah. Because when you have to go to Wolverhampton and stand around on a platform and then change platforms and run across to the next one, and oh whoops, that train's going before that one, and then you miss your connection or whatever, you are suddenly mentally, psychologically, you feel more cut off. And we don't want Telford cut off from anywhere. We want to be completely connected up to major business hubs and networks right across the country. And that is what that train symbolises. However, where we've got a real problem still at the moment is for the everyday commute to Birmingham, where people need to get for work or they want to get for leisure, and you can't have that access at the moment. It's poor, and obviously it's the overcrowding, it's the way that there are not enough trains per hour, then you've got the slow train, and for some reason I got in terrible trouble for saying we don't want these slow trains that stop everywhere, we want to have a direct train to Birmingham. And everybody got really excitable about it, and I'm thinking, no, that's what I should be saying. I'm standing up for Telford. Telford people want to get to Birmingham, and they want to get to Birmingham easily and quickly.
I agree with you. I have to agree with you on that. That's not my
problem. I want my residents to be able to get to Birmingham. And the BBC went mad. They were like, oh, why are you trying to say that people who live in the countryside shouldn't have trains? I'm like, no, I'm saying people in Telford, because it's a big town, it's a growing conurbation, we are a big part of the local economy, we should be able to commute easily to a big centre like Birmingham for jobs, for leisure, and vice versa.
I guarantee anybody sitting on the train to Wolverhampton or to Birmingham will be sitting on that train when they says we're Bilbrook, Codsall,
it's like a cattle truck. I'm sorry, I'm getting truck again now, but
Shifnut.
You just sit there.
Their heart sinks and think to yourself, "Come on."
You know, this is the 21st century,
I think most people would agree with that, except for the people.
And we're Telford.
Yes, we are, and unfortunately.
And this is a very interesting point actually, because I have found during the course of standing up for Telford that other people in Shropshire sort of feel that if Telford benefits, oh, poor Shropshire's going to miss out. And this is where the whole hospital issue comes up as well. So every time I say, we need this, oh, yes, but what about the rest of rural Shropshire? Well, that's not my job. That's the job of your MP to do that. I'm standing up, and particularly because Telford has been neglected, has been ignored, I think, over many years, for all sorts of different reasons. And there is this sort of element of the rural areas are more affluent, and Telford, in terms of some of its disadvantaged pockets, is ignored. And we need to have our voice heard much more clearly and loudly than
ultimately
say
are,
Shrewsbury does.
and this is it. You know, in terms of, it's almost like the rest of around Telford, the other areas kind of think we're almost underestimates Telford's the might of Telford in a way, and that's what we are. You know, when you go to Milton Keynes and you see the size of that place, we're not too far off that. You know, and you don't go down the motorway and it's stopping at Bilbrook and you've got a junction at every single one.
Absolutely right.
It stops
Absolutely right.
at every major area. So the A41, Wolverhampton, the other North Wolverhampton, and that's what it is. I agree.
And it is absolutely to do with this sense of the outside world recognising Telford. Until they recognise Telford as this big contributor to the West Midlands economy, then Telford's not going to get what it needs, and that's why we have to keep speaking up for it. And I think, yes, that's, and the train thing is this whole symbolism around that.
Well, maybe just improve the bus service.
Yes.
There you go. Improve the bus service to those rural communities, and then let the train. You know, that's what I think it is. If you know, if they linked up to more of the train station, the major stations, we'd have, you know, wouldn't have. I'm with you on that. To be honest with you,
you are a local historian, but you will know that in the past, for example, when the M54 was being built in the early 80s, that all the sort of resistance that the wider Shropshire community had towards Telford, and how Telford was sort of looked at as this sort of blot on the landscape and was somehow a negative thing. And I think I want, absolutely, by being an outsider coming in, which is absolutely what I am, not anymore, but when I first came back in 2013, outsider coming in, being able to see Telford with fresh eyes and say, no, actually, look, we have got great potential to contribute to the local West Midlands economy. We're already doing that. We're innovative, we adapt to change, we cope with setbacks, we've overcome all these obstacles in our history, the unemployment, the periods of the mines closing, all the things that have been difficult to overcome. We've done that. And we've got an amazing spirit as a community, and actually we want to be out there shouting about what we can do, and we don't want these surrounding communities to say, oh well, you know, if Telford gets a new hospital, that means we're going to lose out, or you know, whatever.
But these small communities come into Telford to use the facilities of Telford. You know, the shopping in the stooping in the shopping centre. Exactly. Yeah. So
the whole of Shropshire benefits from Telford.
It's back to that same thing again. You can't please everybody, you know. And I am with you 100% on that. I think, you know, it needs to be a direct link. Improve the bus service. Two things solved. You know, there. Easy said than done, though. Eh?
Yeah, but you've got to have these goals to work on. The other key ambition I had was around protecting some of our green spaces, because the only problem with a new town is the reason people come to it is because of its wonderful rural-urban environment, that mix, that really unique mix. So they come for that, and we have to preserve that. We have to protect it. And I think it's very important that we don't lose sight of that by just saying, oh yeah, the government wants to build a load of new houses, let's send them all off to Telford. We need to balance that quite carefully, because you have massive challenges around the sort of school places, doctor surgeries, the right infrastructure to deal with new build estates that are coming in. And yes, new housing, it's good quality, most of it, but we have to have the right infrastructure to support the communities. You can't just whack it down and say, right, that's fine. You've got to be able to build communities and support them with really small things that I noticed when I first came in to Telford as an outsider. It was things like people didn't have postcodes and bus stops, and they weren't on the sat-navs.
Well, actually, in them days as well, we're talking is developers weren't paying anything towards schools, etc. Now they're paying. You're having to pay a lot more towards building the infrastructure in there. But obviously, you know, like they say, the NHS is struggling money-wise, and yet the town's growing, and the more that grows, every day Lawley grows that little bit bigger. Telford does. And that still puts that strain on that. So we have to work on that. Which brings me to my point about the ongoing thing with the Princess Royal and the Royal Shrewsbury about what's the best thing to do. Because obviously, you know, there are plans to close the Women and Children's Centre, what do they call it, Emma? Sorry?
The Women and Children's Centre.
Is that what it's called? Okay, there we go. Right, first time.
Yeah.
Don't edit that out. Yeah, so the honest answer, but it's only been constructed a short amount of time, isn't it?
It's absolutely crazy, first of all. I mean, let's just get that completely straight. We're not starting with a complete blank sheet of paper. When you're redesigning hospital services for the future, you have to work with what you've currently got.
Yes.
And that centre has only just opened. It opened in my Telford lifetime.
Yeah.
And I can't see any rationale for saying that it's money well spent to pretend it's not there and start all over again. And if we had a blank sheet of paper, we might do it differently. Well, we don't have that luxury. No one has that luxury. In any business, you work with what you've got and you make the best of what you've got. Clearly, we need it as well in terms of our population growth, but also the fact we are a younger population than surrounding Shropshire, and also in terms of disadvantage and need, because the NHS has always been about providing for those motor elsewhere, because of our population centre and because of the way our demographic is made up, and our pockets of quite significant disadvantage, and we can't pretend they're not there, because they absolutely are.
So let's look at Shropshire. We've got Shropshire, we've got Shrewsbury, we've got Telford, then we've got everything around it: Whitchurch, Market Drayton, Bridge North, Ludlow, all of those areas. Where is the centre? Where is the centre? Which is the best site for it? Because we've lived in Shrewsbury and we've travelled to Telford for hospital. You know, we've done that. It's a bit of a pain. But then some things, people in Telford will go to Shrewsbury for different things, you know. And some will go to other hospitals such as Stoke, you know, the heart, you know, leading. So
well, that is an important point with regards to provision of emergency or critical. So when we say emergency, I think sometimes there is a misunderstanding of what is actually meant by it. But critical care, as in life-threatening conditions. You and I, if something like that happened to us or a member of our family, we wouldn't care where we went. We'd want to go to the best place for our condition. We would be taken in an ambulance. We might well go to Stoke. We might well go to Birmingham. They might, wherever, they would take us to where was the best place for our condition, and we would totally accept that that is the right thing.
I don't think you'd be too worried, would you? You'd be saying, I've got to go to hospital.
So when they've started to say, well, we're going to have an emergency critical care centre within Shropshire somewhere, to my mind, and to a lot of people I speak to, they don't actually care as long as they can still have their local walk-in 24-hour service for the sort of accidents and emergencies that commonly do happen to people, whether they fall off their trampoline and crack their head open or fall down the stairs or whatever it is. They want quick and easy access for that type of condition, and that is what we are going to have under the new proposals. So the location of the critical care centre, in terms of patient outcome, I don't think is the big issue. Where I have real problems is the Women and Children's Unit, but also the way in which Telford has been treated through this. Because, to be honest, right at the beginning, so back in 2013, I went to see the Chief Executive of the Shrewsbury and Telford Trust, and he sat me down, and just like you've said now, he drew a little map of the region to be serviced, and he said, look, you've got Telford here, Shrewsbury here, you've got Stoke, you've got Wolverhampton, you've got Birmingham, you've got all that provision in the east side, and you haven't got anything over here, and we've got to add on Wales. So they knew way back then they were dealing with a huge geographical area where the most emergency critical care was focused on the eastern side, and we would have access to Stoke, Birmingham.
I mean, imagine if
so they knew back then, and the way this has all been handled, it's made Telford feel kind of a bit second best. They're being treated second best, as in, oh yes, well, you know, Shrewsbury's really where it's at, we're going to put all the resource there, and Shrewsbury can be the centre of the geographical area. Well, actually,
but Shrewsbury's been reduced over the years. Buildings have been demolished, and it's been squeezed right down to a smaller hospital than what it was. Yeah, if I lived in Ludlow and I had to go, and our nearest hospital was going to be Telford, I'd be extremely worried about that, because no matter what happens, we have got the road network to the transport link, whether depend on wherever it goes. I think because we're in Telford and we think Telford, But what if we lived in Wales? What would our opinion of it be?
Well,
can we sustain two hospitals?
When they say that to me, well, what about people in Wales? I say, well, that's actually for Wales to be thinking about. I don't understand why my constituents should be treated any less favourably because people in Wales have got needs. Of course they have, but they've got a Welsh NHS.
Yeah.
You know, and there's very different rules and free prescriptions and all sorts of other things that we don't get. So there is all of that side of it, which is quite complicated. But what saddened me about the whole thing is it's opened up this historic, and it is historic, and you will know that as part of the work that you've been doing on Telford, this historic way in which Shropshire has viewed Telford historically, that it's like, well, you don't need that because, you know, you're just Telford and we need it because we're Shropshire, and it's that awful kind of division has been opened up where they have said, oh yes, well, it's option one is here.
Sometimes it almost feels like they think it's some sort of joke town, you know, that
they're not taking us seriously.
No.
I think that is an undercurrent, and I hope I won't sort of land colleagues in it, but MPs for other parts of Shropshire often say, well, Telford gets everything, you know, what about us? It's not fair, we're missing out. Well, actually, we are a big urban conurbation now. You know, we are not just a small county town.
Telford's built for everybody. It's built for the people of Shrewsbury to come and shop.
Yeah.
You know, it's there for everybody. You know, we've got everything that everybody else needs in one place.
But this goes back a long way. People looking down on Telford, and even when I first said I was coming to Telford, people from Shropshire said to me, and these are, you know, I won't name names, but they did actually say to me, well, you're not going to live in Telford, are you? You're not going to get a house in Telford. I'm like, well, yes. You know, I'm going to be representing Telford. Oh, but won't you want to live out in the country? And I'm like, why would I want to do that? You know, I've come to... They really thought I was going to go and live in a nice little barn conversion in some rural... You know, but that would be lovely for a weekend cottage or something. But no, I wanted to come and be part of Telford and live in Telford because you're going to represent the area. And I was quite shocked that they were kind of saying, oh, but you can't live there. Yeah,
because you've got to live and breathe it, haven't you, to know what it needs.
They didn't realise it's a nice place to live. I mean, it's like they literally didn't realise that. They thought, oh, no one would want to go and choose to live there. Like, yes, people come and choose to live in Telford all the time for really good reason. And so there's that kind of...
I do think we need a really nice, a really decent marketing campaign for Telford. You know, of actually, you know, are these common misconceptions. Like Milton Keynes, they had a series of billboards about the misconceptions of Milton Keynes, concrete jungle, etc., etc. And I think we need that with Telford. We need a strong brand for Telford. There needs to be and a renewed optimism.
There needs to be kind of a little 60-second video, sort of real highlights of Telford that people don't even know exist. I mean, there should be more that we.
I think that's something
that might be something coming out of the whole 50th, because it's all very well, and I will say this, that yes, we're having lots of celebrations that we've achieved a milestone, and I think it's important that we mark it. But really, what I think we should be using a 50th for is to plan for our future.
Yes,
because we've got the next 50 years, the next 70 years. You know, we don't want to be having these arguments about
what are we doing in 10 years' time. I think. I asked Sean that. Where are we going to be in 10 years' time? What are we going to be? I asked him that question. What do you think? What would you like to see in 10 years' time?
I'm really glad that people are asking that question, because they ought to be. Because unfortunately, the trouble with politicians, and yes, I am one too, we can get a bit hooked into, well, the election cycle. You know, I want to make sure that in 2019 I'm re-elected as the leader of Telford and Wrekin Council, so I'm going to focus on doing some good things today.
Yeah.
And I'm not too bothered about 2020, 2025, whenever, because I won't be here. Yeah. And I think that is a big missed opportunity, because no, I won't be here either, but I would like to know that I had some input into Telford's long-term future. What a fantastic legacy that would be, to say I helped shape what Telford becomes in the next 50 years.
If I could say to you, Lucy, so far, with what you've done positively for Telford, what would your legacy be? If say it was going to end today, could you say I've done? What are your best moments? Your positive, what you've done?
Well, sometimes it's some very small things.
Yeah.
And you can have, like this morning, somebody came to see me, had a very bad experience, and I was able to say to them, if you do this, this and this, and put a file together, and here's a lever arch, and here's some dividers, go and do it, get your records together, you've got some evidence. And they went out feeling better about their life. And if you as an MP, if you're not doing that, you're not doing the job. So that's one part of it.
Yeah.
Very important that you are helping people in their lives to pick themselves up, to help themselves move forward. And I enjoy that.
And that's
part
the stuff
of the work.
nobody hears about.
They don't, because a lot of it is
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
confidential, whatever, and that for me is something that gives me a real sense when things don't go well, because they
Yeah.
often don't go well
No.
in politics. It's not a one-way street. It's pretty challenging, and you have ups and downs, and sometimes you do achieve things, and sometimes you don't. But that always gives me a real lift that I've been able to change in a small way one person's perception on their life that day and make a difference to them. And we
Yeah.
do get a lot of that, and we get a lot of thanks for that. And
Yeah.
people in Telford are lovely. They draw you pictures, or they send you flowers, they write you little notes. We
Yeah.
keep all of that. We have a sort of
Yeah.
thank you drawer. When things are going bad, we can open the drawer and just look at all the thanks and ways in which we've been able to help people. So that's good. I mean, I think the ambition, as we spoke earlier, was about being a voice for Telford. And I
Yeah.
think one thing I've been able to do in Parliament, I'm quite noisy about Telford
Yeah,
in Parliament.
yeah.
So as soon as I get up, everybody knows I'm going to be talking about Telford, whether it's new towns, whether it is child sexual exploitation, which is something I talk about a lot, whether it's something to do with connectivity. They know what I'm going to be talking
Yeah.
about. And they
Yeah.
get a measure of what Telford is,
Yeah.
which is fantastic. So to be able to do that as the MP, I think, is important. So it's all there in Hansard. You can see everything I've ever said, all about Telford, and sort of banging the drum for Telford, because
Yeah.
we absolutely do not want to be squashed by our surrounding neighbours who are quite vocal themselves for their own area. So a lot of that, and that will be there for posterity,
Yeah.
no doubt about it. But if I really wanted to leave a legacy, I think it has to be about what are we going to do and deliver for Telford's future. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I've been able to do in Parliament is to draw together all MPs for new towns, and we have this cross-party group called the All-Party Parliamentary Group for new towns, and working together in Parliament we are a much stronger voice for the whole new towns movement.
Yeah.
And one of the things, for example, this budget period, we've put into the Chancellor a pitch for a new towns infrastructure fund, because just like in Harlow and in Crawley
Yeah.
and in Milton Keynes, Telford has the issue of everything being built at once, so everything decays
Yeah.
at once. And if you look, and you know it better than anyone, our housing estates, the older housing estates, the Sutton Hills, the Woodsides, the Brooksides,
Yeah.
that's all decaying at once.
Yeah.
What is going to happen there, for example, in 50 years' time? Some of those properties aren't going to last 10, never mind 20 years' time. How are we going to replace some of that?
Yeah.
And there's a huge need to be continually thinking about, yes, how we fund that, not just on the lorries and the new...
Because there's massive money involved in
Yeah,
regeneration
huge,
of
huge.
estates, isn't it?
And
And
that's
that's why
where
they
the-
choose to demolish them. It's just cheaper in the long run and rebuild.
And this is the problem with the
And that's
new
with
town.
all the new towns.
Yeah, this self-sustaining element is not there, and I
Yeah.
think everyone has said, well, it's because when the Telford Development Corporation and all of that sort of stuff, all that side of it, they were no longer able to self-sustain.
Yeah.
And because it's private ownership of these estates, why is somebody who owns a flat that can rent it out to somebody who's on benefits and they're getting some good rental income
Yeah.
from that, why they're going to bother to renovate that individual property? And there's some real issues around that, and it's not just Telford that has those problems. So we need to work together. Council needs to work with the other councils of new town areas, as do the MPs work together.
Because obviously a lot of the housing was sold off initially.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say who by, but I'm going
It
to say it was auctioned off it was auctioned off in Stoke-on-Trent. A lot of the estate houses to people who've no intention of coming here or living here, to rent them out to people who potentially have been evicted off council lists, etc. And they are what create the pepper pot type of environment where you've got Mrs. Jones lives at 33, her garden's beautiful and immaculate, she's really looked after that house, and then you've got next door, the house almost looks completely run down, then next door is another, and
That's
people are
massive.
living with that kind of, so obviously landlords need to become more accountable for their properties, and that's what actually creates that decay, and decay just spreads. Then those people who've looked after the house think, there's not much point here, what's the point? And then you just get that deterioration, and I've
the other
seen
issue, for example, you've mentioned it, Mrs. Jones looking after her house. When Mrs. Jones dies, and that house might get sold again to a house of multiple occupation, so the actual owner-occupiers are going to be reduced over time, there's
Yeah.
no doubt about that. And they're the people that look after property.
So then you have a completely run down And then let's just be honest here. It's not a council estate. They blame a council estate, but it's not the estate. It's the people. You know, we've all got different standards, haven't we? And unfortunately, when you put a lot of people together in one area, you know, you've got all these different sides. And I've seen this on many, many different estates. And you know, and I think a lot. You know, I think work is being done with these landlords. You know, to improve the property.
But it is a big issue for Telford, and we shouldn't just focus on our wonderful new shiny shopping centres and our South Waters. And yes, we've got our achievements, and we've got our new build, Lightmoors and Lawleys, and all of that. But actually, the original Telford,
yes,
there are some issues there, and that's not going to go away.
I mean, for me, money has been put into a lot of money's been put into Woodside to improve the areas, and I think I judge on my videos they have. But you've still got Sutton Hill. Sutton Hill, the first one, who needs the most money, hasn't had it.
Yeah.
You know, when you've got, in actual fact, you've got a lot more, in a survey I did, you've got a lot more residents living on Sutton Hill who have been there from the time the house was built. Yeah. And we should look after those people.
Yeah, we should.
You know,
we should encourage
you know, I know Sutton Hill's had a nice new centre.
Yeah.
But the rest of it,
you know, it's the actual housing, some of the condition of some of those houses. Yeah. If you go in it and you think nobody should have to live like this, nobody, and then when you actually find out who the tenants are, they are people who've got hugely complex problems, who can't actually manage to necessarily to cope with some of the issues that they're facing in their lives. Never mind they're living in a house that's sort of decaying around them. Yeah. So that's not going to go away. So we do have to be open about the challenges we face in order to tackle them for the future, as well as celebrating our shiny new town, because there are lots of good things about Telford. And we are definitely, if you compare us to Harlow or Crawley or any of these other places that we've been talking about, actually we are a success story, a huge success story. And I think we could be a model for the future of how new towns could evolve in a successful way.
And we are evolving all the time with South Water and stuff. Telford. What is your favourite thing about Telford? What's your favourite thing?
I'm afraid that's an easy one. That is an easy one. I just think the town park is fantastic, and it tells you so much about Telford and the whole sort of Telford spirit and ethos, and I love that.
Well, we went to Milton Keynes and we looked at Campbell Park in the middle of Milton Keynes, and it just lacked that. It was all very nice. It was all very nice and green, but that industrial heritage that's in that park was what makes Telford Park special. And it's just, you know, Campbell Park is just
a green
grass.
Space,
And that's not a park, really. A park is...
It's our mix, isn't it? We've got this amazing mix of
heritage,
historic and current, and this urban rural, and it works. It just fits. And I think we're lucky because we've got the size right. If the population had been that much bigger, and I know it was intended that it should have been, but I think the size of Telford is to our strength.
Do you think we could become a city? Do you think we could maybe get a city status eventually?
I don't think we need to. I think we're doing everything right as we are.
Because Milton Keynes like to call them... I was corrected the other day. Someone said it was a city. For the record...
I'm not a new town. I'm a city. And I'm like, yes, you are.
For the record, Milton Keynes is not designated as a city.
They get very upset.
They do.
Say that.
That's what cross me.
The two MPs for Milton Keynes get very cross with me because I keep talking about new towns and they go, oh, that's not us.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I am going to make it my mission to visit and interview somebody from every new town in the UK, and I want to talk about everybody's individual issues.
Don't forget the ones in Scotland.
Yes. Well, there's a lot, isn't it? Because when you're talking new towns, you've got the big new towns like we are in Milton Keynes, and then you've got the smaller ones like Redditch and all those little satellite small ones, you know. They all face the same issues, don't they?
And that's what's remarkable, really. And they've had different ways of solving the same problem. And their councils love getting together and talking to each other about their common issues and their common solutions that they could share. So
just to conclude, what can we expect from you over the next year?
Great things, I hope. No, I mean, of course, every MP... Most MPs try their very hardest to do a good job because they feel good about themselves if they're doing a good job. Nobody wants to, whatever they do in life, wants to underperform. So I've always wanted to be the best MP that I can be. Things get in the way, lots of things get in the way, whether it's the sort of the political environment, whether it's a local political environment, whether it's what's happening nationally, because it is, to be honest, quite chaotic at the moment nationally, and people will be aware of that. So things get in the way, but I want to go on being this champion, this voice for Telford, being able to bang the drum about the things that are good, but not being afraid, and we shouldn't shy away, not being afraid to talk about the things that we need to do better in Telford. And often it's, oh, you're talking Telford down. You're like, no, we're confronting the truth about how we make it better.
Yeah.
Because that has to be your fundamental job as an MP. It's how you make life better for people that live in Telford, live in your area, the people you represent. How do you make their life better?
Yeah.
And that is everything that I am about. So whether it's the small things when they come and see me, want some help, whether it's the big things about our vision for the next 50 years, all of that is about making Telford a better place to live, but making people's lives better in Telford. So the next year I want to be able to...
And that is so important. You know, also underestimate that you are there, as you say, banging that drum for us to make our town better.
Yep.
What a perfect sentiment to end it on.
Well, thank you very much for talking to me, because I've always wanted to meet you. I'm a big fan.